Even if you're just a single truck operation, you need to fill out an application and hire yourself. But any state that has an equivalent inspection, you don't have to get the federal periodic inspection. He found what was a red flag in my logs because I'd gone over my 8-hour. All right, so I'm getting paperwork together for the new Entrant audit. I've got it up in Mount Pleasant, coming up in a few days. So I'm just going to go through all the paperwork I'm bringing. I talked to the officer, that's the DOT officer that's doing it, so I got a little bit more information from him. Anything you have in the truck, you need that stuff, like your registration, insurance, IFTA, your COI. I bring one of those for your insurance as well. I don't know if you have to have it. Your medical card. And this is just for me. So if you've got more drivers, you'll need a DQ file for all of the drivers. I'll go over that in a little more detail coming up. Truck and trailer or your equipment inspections, whatever equipment you own or whatever equipment you're authorized to pull, or, the power unit and trailers. I've got DOT inspections for both of those, not roadside inspections, just the annual DOT inspections. So I've also got a copy of I'm not going to show, all this paperwork it's like personal, private information or business information. I wouldn't, I don't want it to be out there on the internet. So I'm not going to screenshot and show close-ups, but what I will do is some of the paperwork, it's like stuff you need to fill out or stuff you need to prepare for it. I'll upload those, like a redacted version that's just got my information removed. And so if you're getting ready for a safety audit, you'll be able to download that and just use it however you want to. But I've got my letter from the FMCSA, just when my MC was instated or went active. Got a copy of my UCR. What else? That's just a backup IFTA. So I've got all the state permits in here. I carry some state permits that I just always have, like Florida overlink permit, just different stuff like that. And then New York HUT paperwork. I don't know if you need it or if just those tags are enough, but I carry copies of that stuff in my truck. So I'm just going to bring this whole little organizer thing here. And he said digital copies are fine. He said you need a paper or digital copy. It doesn't matter how you keep your records. But he said, I keep my stuff in the iCloud and I keep some of it backed up in Google Drive. So pretty much everything is in the iCloud. And he said they don't have internet, so he said make sure you have a downloaded copy. So I went through and I just clicked on the authority folder in my iCloud and I just hit download, so it's going to be saved onto the laptop. So I'll be able to pull all that stuff up. So here's some of that paperwork I was talking about that I'll upload, and some of it I just got PDF forms. It's on the computer. It didn't seem that important, just like a overview tutorial of what's included. So the big thing, you just got to fill out. They've got this long thing. I think I went over that in the other video, like prepping for a safety audit or something like that. But basically, you just fill out all information about your ELD. They'll have you transmit your rods. And he didn't, this says they need 6 months worth of records, but when I talked to him on the phone, he's like, I'm just going to look at the last month. Just send me January's, that's fine. So I sent him, I already transmitted those to him through the official. And you have to log into your ELD's admin portal to do it. I know there's a way to email them from, if you're a driver on the side of the road, you can email the officer your last 8 days of records. But the rods, what they're wanting is from the motor carrier, not from the driver. And so you have to do it, or I had to do it. I may be different on yours, but I use Omnitrax. I had to do it from my Omnitrax admin portal. I just had to, there's a thing just to submit or transmit your rods to FMCSA. And then they give you a little code they give you a certain code to put in there as an identifier so they know it's coming from you. But you fill out all your basic, just personal business information, who your insurance is through, how many trucks and trailers, how many drivers, are they interstate, outside or within 100 miles. You got to put down your drug consortium. You got to let them know where your files, like what kind of organization you have for your files, where they're stored at, who's responsible for them. I just put digital files backed up in iCloud. The owner's responsible, iCloud, OmniTrax, iCloud, Google Drive, iCloud. So that's what I put on pretty much all of them. You got to give them a list of your drivers, a list of your equipment. I just had one truck and one trailer on mine. And then all these, so they want some kind of proof or documentation that they can verify your miles against. So I just brought all my, like these are just all bill of ladings from the past year. And then your BOC3 processing agent, like whoever that is, I just printed off the form, like the certificate they sent me. So it's got who I'm registered with, and it's got the agent for each individual state or whoever they would need to go through. I think this is just for, like, if you're getting sued, somebody's got to be able to contact you. So I think that's what BOC3 primarily serves. That's the purpose it primarily serves, is helping people sue you. Although I could be wrong. There could be some other purpose for it. This is one thing I did not have, but I created because it was on their list, is an accident register. I mean, I would have created one eventually whenever I have an accident, but they just want it for the past year. I got no accidents. And this is, I'll make a spreadsheet version that I could actually track accident history with. But this, if you Google accident register FMCSA, this pops up. This is an official FMCSA, template version. So I just printed that off and filled it out. They want your loss run. So you got to give them your loss run, at least for the prior year, or as long as your insurance policy has been effective. And so if you had multiple insurance policies for one reason or another, you probably have to get a loss run from both of those policies, I would imagine. And your insurance endorsement, your MCS-90, which I'm not sure why they show, like I've got $1 million policy, but this thing shows 750,000. I don't know why. So I think this is pretty much what I'm going to bring. I'm just going to bring my laptop. I'll bring this. I'll bring all these bill of ladings and all the forms I printed off specifically for the safety audit. And then I've got all of my receipts for 2025 and a maintenance report. So my maintenance report is it's one continuous maintenance report. It started back in, I think, 2018, and it's still going. So every quarter, when you need to keep quarterly reports for your maintenance records, I just save a new copy as the Q4 or Q3 or whatever it is for that year. And it's still got the whole history in it. So I don't know if he might not like the fact that it's that long and it goes all the way back. But it is what it is. If he doesn't like it, then I'll start chopping off the top of it for my future quarterly, maintenance records. The DQ file for, that's one thing I do need to touch on, because I'm probably going to fail because of the DQ file. I'm just being honest. That's okay. They said it's not really, if you're worried, I wouldn't be nervous about these safety audits or the new entrant safety audit. It sounds like it's primarily to make sure you know what you're supposed to do and how to do things. It's not for like punishment or fines or, you don't even bring your truck in. I'm just going to drive my personal vehicle up there. But your DQ file, I guess I should read it off of here because mine's all screwed up. Okay. So in the DQ, what you're supposed to have, and I didn't touch on this, but the drug testing records, pre-employment, and any other tests that the drivers have been through. And I'm doing it for me, but like I said, if you got multiple drivers that hired or leased on, within your first year, 18 months, I think, is as far as these new entrant audits go. But you have to have certain things for all the drivers, and the drug testing is one of the things. You'll need all the drug testing records. The DQ file, you need an application. Even if you're just a single truck operation, you need to fill out an application and hire yourself. You need a medical examiner certificate, road test. I don't do any road test, but it says next to it CDL, commercial driver's license is fine for that. Inquiry to previous employers and their responses. That's what I don't have. I just don't have it. I got a letter from Landstar saying I had like over 600,000 safe driving miles with them with no accidents. So I'm just gonna bring that. But what you're supposed to do, he said, even if you're hiring yourself, and this would only apply whenever you first start your authority, because beyond that, another driver, you'll need to do it anyways. And you do have to do a query through the drug and alcohol, I forget what it's called, the clearinghouse. Yeah. So you've got to run a query on yourself through the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. I'm not sure why we still have to. I mean, it seems like if there's major stuff, you're running a vehicle history or a motor vehicle, what's it called? Driver, you're pulling a driving record, you're pulling the drug and alcohol clearinghouse. So if you got those two things, I don't know why you need to contact the prior employers or companies they drove for. I don't know. Maybe if it wasn't drug and alcohol related, it wasn't driving related, maybe they like punched another driver as in the parking lot and it wasn't serious enough, but so it didn't kick in the drug and alcohol clearing check, it didn't kick in the driving check, but they're just an angry, violent person that is just fighting people in the parking lots. So maybe that's why you got to query the previous employers. Driving record inquiry to state agencies. So that's what I was talking about earlier. The motor vehicle or your driving record. You got to pull a driving record. I use the state of Texas. I'm sure there's companies that you can just, say I need a driving record, MVR for this person, this is their driver's license number, and they'll just do it. But you can go through the state. I just went to the state of Texas and I was able to pull the driving history for myself. And it gave me the option to pay, like even if it wasn't me, I'd have been able to pull it. So it's just, I think, a different pay. You got to pay a little more if it's not for yourself. Okay, annual review of driving record. So that's every year your drivers have to give a list of all the incidents, all the roadside inspections where if they failed them, I don't know if they pass the inspection, I don't think they have to put it on there, but any accidents and failed inspections have to be listed annually, so you got to have a copy of that. Your medical waiver, if you needed it. Driver training, I have no driver training, I might fail for that. Driver investigation history file. I don't have one of those, but you know what? I just created a folder. It says investigation history file. I put it underneath my name and my DQ files. So now I've got a folder so they can just look at that and they can say, look, he's ready to investigate himself whenever the time comes. So that's pretty much what I'm taking. I'm just going to load up all this stuff into a backpack and take my laptop with me. I think that's it. So I'll do another, or I'll just add on. If you're watching this, you'll just see what happened after I got done with the audit. Just leaving the DOT way station in Mount Pleasant, Texas. It really wasn't as bad as I thought. I mean, they're doing an audit on you, but you're able to ask a lot of questions and make sure you got everything in order. But I'll go through all the paperwork he specifically asked about. I'll go through the questions that I asked him and what stuff he clarified. But you need pre-employment drug screen for your drivers. If they've been called for a random test, you need all that information, the test results. He did ask for the drug testing policy. So whenever you sign up for a drug testing consortium or consortium, people say it differently, but the drug testing consortium that you use should, and there's hundreds of them out there, but they should give you a drug testing policy, and then you kind of just copy and paste your company information and stuff into that. So they need to see that. One of the questions I had for him, I was a Landstar owner-operator. I was leased on a Landstar. I'd done inspections like a Landstar. It wasn't 120 day. I mean, it was 120 day, but it was like to get the truck and trailer leased on with them. Within 2 loads with Landstar, I was getting my own authority. So I just had those inspections, and I had paid for them. Landstar didn't have anything to do with paying for those inspections. Landstar does pay for them after you're already leased on, but for your initial ones to lease on with them, you have to pay for them. And so I just used those same inspections as my federal periodic inspections. And he said that's really not that big of a deal. But one thing he did mention was if you're in Texas specifically, you have to have a Texas inspection, which I have a Texas inspection on top of that I got done before I got my authority. And he said that's the only one you need. So I had read that, and so I asked him specifically if I'm getting a Texas inspection, any state that has an equivalent inspection, you don't have to get the federal periodic inspection. You just get your state's inspection. There may be more, but he said the only one he could think of that doesn't have
about 32 miles. Continue straight.
He said the only one he could think of off the top of his head that doesn't have a stringent enough inspection requirement is Oklahoma. So he said if you're in Oklahoma, you have to get the federal periodic and your state's inspection. But if you're in Texas or most other states, there's a whole list online. I've looked at it before. You just do your state inspection, and that counts as your federal periodic inspection. And then the stickers you get for your federal, like that you put on the side of your truck or your trailer, he said that's just a quick way they can just glance and see, but they don't really rely on that. So if they want to see your inspection forms, they want to see your actual inspections, not, they don't care so much about the stickers. But I'm thinking if you do your state inspection, you could probably just ask them to get the periodic inspection stickers to put on the side of your truck and trailer. So that was good information that he gave me. And one thing I really didn't have in line was my maintenance records. So I had all the receipts, invoices, and everything from maintenance I was done on the truck, plus I had my actual records of the service I was performed. But I just had mine set up where it shows like the date, the mileage, the shop that did the work, the price, and the city and state where the work was done, and then what actual work was done. So if something was done on the truck or the trailer, and I think I had another box that was like, was this a roadside repair or not? But anyways, he said it would be a good idea to have an actual checkbox to where you can specify is the work. So I need to add on my spreadsheet that I use just 2 check boxes, and one of them will be for truck, one will be for trailer. So if it was just on the truck, I'll just check off truck. If it's a trailer, that, or I could check off both of them if it's work that's where multiple things are getting done. So that was one thing. It didn't fail me. He just said it's better practice to do that. And on my maintenance record spreadsheet, I've got the year, make, model, and the VIN number of each piece of equipment listed at the top, but I don't have the tire size. He said you need to have your tire size listed on your maintenance records, and I have a separate like preventative maintenance schedule, and he did want to see that. So you need to have a preventative maintenance schedule that has tires, it has all when you do your oil changes, when your tire tread depth is below a certain level, just all of that. You need to have all that kind of stuff. He went over my logs, and he found what was a red flag in my logs because I'd gone over my 8-hour. Originally, they asked for 6 months worth of logs. Well, he told me he's just going to look at the past month, so I just sent him January's logs. He found that flag for going over the 8 hours. I just told him, he didn't ask for proof or more detailed records. I just told him the only thing I've done since mid-December has all been oversized loads, and so I've always had that 30-minute break exemption, and he didn't ask anymore. He wasn't worried about it. Another thing that was an issue, so whenever my insurance policy, I got $1 million insurance. Now, whenever I submitted that policy to the FMCSA's website, I don't forget if I uploaded it or how they got that information. I'm pretty sure my insurance provider had to send it to them. But it's $1 million policy for I'm talking about the liability. And they, on the website, it shows $750,000. And he said that's common. He said that's nothing to worry about. He said a lot of times they just default it to the minimum. As long as you have the minimum required, it'll just show the minimum. And I've seen others that show $1 million, so I don't know what triggers it to show an accurate number and why it shows 750 for some of us. But my MCS-90, I believe, is the form. That's where your insurance it's on top of your COI and your actual insurance card. That's the form the insurance will provide or submit that just guarantee, that's like their stamp of approval or guarantee that this carrier's covered. Kind of just one additional document. And my MCS-90 showed $750,000. So he said, if you're doing the oversized loads, you might need $1 million for some of those. And I was like, I've got $1 million. And I pulled out my COI and showed it to him. And he said, yeah, well, you need to talk to your insurance provider. And I use Progressive. I may not be using Progressive pretty soon if they don't cut the rates down significantly. I don't know if it'll get cut in half. I talked to one driver who's had a DOT number he's based out of New York. He's had a DOT number for, it's like 25 or 30 years. He's been doing this for a while. And so he's got old MC and DOT numbers. Well, his insurance, he's paying, can't remember exactly, but it's between like $6,000 and $8,000 for his insurance for the year. And I don't expect mine to get cut that low, but right now mine's like $23,000. So I need mine to be somewhere between $15,000 and $18,000 next year, whenever I sign back up. And if they don't drop it, then I'm just going to shop around every insurance provider and try to get cheaper insurance. It's crazy. That's really what limits you from growing your company. Like if I wanted to lease trucks on, which I don't right now, but maybe in the future I would. But it would make 0 sense for me to lease another truck on with an insurance policy that's that expensive. I mean, that sets your ceiling, really. It's all controlled by the insurance. So I got to get cheaper insurance for sure. But so the reason I started talking about that in the first place, the MCS-90, that should be an accurate number. That should not, even if the FMCSA's website shows 750 and you got $1 million, that's not a big deal. But your MCS-90, you need it to be accurate. I mean, it's not a pass or fail. Like for me, he just let me prove I had it with the COI that I had with me. And he went through, your medical card, you need all that stuff. Medical card, he did not ask for IFTA, but he could have asked for IFTA. Truck registration, he didn't look at that. I think he probably had access in the system because I'm a Texas-based carrier. But, you need to bring all that stuff with you. You need to bring BOLs. He did not ask for my BOLs or proof of to verify with my logs, but that was something I had to bring with me. So yeah, bring your BOLs for whatever date range they're asking for your whatever hours of service, the RODs, records of duty status, whatever date range they need those for, bring BOLs within that same time frame so you can they can double check and verify that stuff. And digital records are okay. Some stuff I had printed out, so I showed them just files on a laptop, and I had physical copies, but if you had accident records or out of service stuff in your history, it would have been a more in-depth audit, I think. So he had seen 0 accidents, 0 violations, everything's at 0. I asked him about my marker lots specifically. I explained the whole marker lot situation. I told him it's an intermittent problem. They go out, then they will be working again when I get stopped. He said, first of all, I wouldn't worry too much about it. He said, your marker lots, that's not an out of service. It could be a violation, but it's not an out of service. He said, and so I asked him, if I get a violation for it and I go to get it fixed and I cannot, and they're just working, because they want you to provide documentation, you got to send them an invoice, you got this repaired, you got it fixed. So he said if you go to a shop and they just say they verify on their invoice that marker lots are all working properly, he said that's sufficient. It's just going to be a headache to deal with. So he said not to worry too much about that. Now he did, one thing that got brought up in that conversation was what is an out of service. And so your brake lots, it doesn't matter if you have one brake light that's out. As long as you have a single brake light that works on the rearmost, if your bobtail would be your truck, if you have a trailer hooked up, then it's your trailer brake lights. If you have no brake lights, that's out of service, obviously. But if you have even a single brake light working, that's just a regular violation, so it's not near as big of a deal. Now your turn signals, that's what I thought was interesting. So your rearmost turn signals, both of them must work. Either turn signal that doesn't work is an out of service violation. However, that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is, he said, if you have turn signals on your mirrors that can be visible while you're driving, and your trailer turn lights, one of your turn signals doesn't work, he said they can use that mirror turn signal as a substitute because it's visible, even though it's not the rearmost. So he said that's not a waste of time and money if you put, some turn signals hanging down off your mirror post, or you're hanging off your bumper, whatever. Those are actually valuable for keeping you from an out of service violation. So I may end up adding, I'm not going to do it right now, I got a lot of stuff going on, but just a quick little side note there. And we kind of got to talking about Chameleon Carriers, how they'll find some problem. A carrier will have a lot of bad inspections, or drivers, he said, believe it or not, drivers with no CDLs or the non-domiciled CDLs are in Texas, people have a Mexican CDL and stuff like that. He said that's a lot bigger issue than you think. But he said on the carrier side specifically, he said their hands are really tied. He said the federal government has loopholes so that these Chameleon Carriers, basically it's just a way for them to get away with, they'll start over with a fresh DOT MC number, and there's no consequences really, other than having to go through the paperwork and stuff. But because he said they have to voluntarily agree to merge data. They have to put their signature on a piece of paper that says they have to agree, or that they are agreeing to merge data from their new company and their old, to merge the two together. And so no motor carrier that's trying to operate as a Chameleon Carrier is going to sign that document. They're just going to say no. I don't think it's forced. I mean, they need to track ownership. They don't need to track the company itself. It needs to be whoever is the the primary shareholders or a significant shareholder within the company, and that needs to be tracked across DOT numbers, MC numbers, that kind of stuff. Like, who cares what the company name is? Who cares what the EIN, tax ID, all that stuff can just be created. Like you can get an EIN number in 2 seconds off the IRS website. You can get a new LLC set up, new company name, new DOT number, new MC number. They need to track the, like, it all needs to be back traced from ownership. Anybody that owns anybody that owns even a single percentage of the company, that's how they need to track that kind of stuff. And I did ask him about the MC. You know, they've been saying for the past, 8 months or a year that MC numbers are going away, that they're just going to get rid of MC numbers, and the DOT number is going to be the number that everything is tracked based on, or, he said he wasn't familiar with that. He didn't know if that was actually true or not. So I don't know, and asked him about MOTUS. Told him I just called FMCSA after they sent out the email about carriers needing to switch over to MOTUS, and he said they haven't informed them of that, if that's actually a thing. But I'll put a link to the documents that I used. Anything that was useful for the audit, I'll put a link in the description to a shared Google folder or shared Google files so that you can download them. And if it's got my information on it for one reason or another, I'll just redact that information so you can still download it. Just use it however you want. And I'm pretty sure all this, even though it was in Texas, I think all this, it's a FMCSA audit, so it's should be valid no matter what state you're based out of. And let me know in the comments if if this type of stuff is helpful, if you find it useful, or if I should stop wasting my time like making videos about FMCSA regulations and whatnot. It would help if you just let me know in the comments, yes, this is helpful, or no, don't waste your time with it. But thanks for watching. Y'all stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next one. Now, a lot of it could depend on the DOT officer that's actually doing your audit. The guy I had, he was real common sense, straightforward, straight shooter. Like, he wasn't trying to, he wasn't looking for gotchas and stuff like that. So, you could get somebody who's real nitpicky and just like trying to find a reason to, fail you on the audit. Although even if you fail the audit, there's no tickets associated with that. He did say if I were to have failed the audit, you have 15 days to provide all the information to the FMCSA that that shows you've corrected it. There was one time frame, 15 days, and another one was 60 days. I think you got to have everything to them within 15 days, and then there's like a 60-day. If something takes longer than 15 for like a specific reason, maybe you have until 60 days. But he did mention if you were to have failed, then you got to get stuff fixed pretty quick. And it's just pass or fail. There's not a letter grade. You don't get A, B, C, D, F. It's just you either made it through with no issues, or just issues that are small enough where they just mention them to you, or you fell and you got issues where they actually want you to really correct them and prove that you've corrected them. But overall, I'd say if you just got your DOT and MC numbers and you're a new carrier, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I would be aware of it and keep, try to make sure you got everything in order that you need. And if you look at the documents that I've provided a link to, that's everything you need. It's got all of it. And if you're a new carrier if you're leased onto somebody and you're thinking about getting your numbers, I wouldn't let the new entrant audit be a holdup for you. It's really not too bad.